A new number one in Class 3A is the big headline this week. But besides that, we have a ton of movement and just a few weeks before postseason play begins in a class that is proving to be up for grabs more than ever. We thought it was Williamsburg to lose. We found out last week that it is indeed not. There are a ton of teams that I could see taking home a state championship in this class. It's going to be a ton of fun, and these final few weeks are going to be crucial for seeding and district title, district runner-ups, wild cards, you name it. These teams are going to be playing for their spot in the postseason, and some of them are going to be playing for chances to host up until the sub-state or the dome, whatever it may be. But without further ado, let's get into your guys' top 16 in Class 3A. Starting at number 16, Hampton-Dumont Cal. They lost to Clear Lake 21-6. Again, that district is just an absolute gauntlet. So Hampton-Dumont Cal on the wrong end of that one. They're going to look to pick up a win next week. Sorry. At number 15, Grinnell. They moved to 5-2. They beat Benton last week 21-20. A really, really good win there against a Benton team that has proven to scrap with some of the top teams. So Grinnell, they are new to our ranks. They hop in at number 15, 5-2. Again, Grinnell, the Tigers. At number 14, Humboldt. They moved down 5 spots after they lost to Algona, 34-17. Algona. That's another matchup in that gauntlet of a district in Class 3A where I could see all five or six of those teams making it into the playoffs through wild cards, runner-ups, whatever it may be. But again, Humboldt drops one to Algona last week. Also dropping is Harlan. They lost to Nevada 39-20. Just really not a great showing. Obviously the loss, but losing by 19 is just not ideal. And Nevada, obviously, they're going to reap the benefits of that. But Harlan, they fall out. They lose their shot at winning the district. They're going to, honestly, they might be a wild card going in at this point with Nevada and Creston in that one, looking to own the top 2 spots. So Harlan, if they get a wild card, that is not a team I'd want to host, the Harlan Cyclones. So they dropped to number 13, but looking to secure their shot at a playoff berth. At number 12, Algona. We just talked about them. They beat Humboldt 34-17 to hop into our rankings. This team is 100% a ranked team. And last week, although they beat Humboldt, many would call that an upset, but really knowing just how tough that district is, Algona, there was just really no room for them in the top 16 last week, but we made sure to make room for them this week after they really put a hurting on a really good team in Humboldt. So Algona, they are new to our rankings this week. At number 11, Webster City. They moved to 5-2 after they beat Charles City 49-13. Webster City, the last team before our top 10. Let's get into your guys' top 10, though. Independence, they've held this spot. They've kind of been sitting around this area for a while now. Beat Macoga to 41-0. Another week, another win for E.J. Miller and the Mustangs this week against the 3-3 Macoga Cardinals. Despite their 6-1 record, it's still a tight race in their district, and their final big obstacle is against West Delaware this week on the road. If they take care of business in this one, like they have all season, they will for sure have a ticket to the 3A playoffs and a district title. So a big one this week for the Mustangs. At number 9, Bishop Heelan at 6-1. They beat Boyden Hull Rock Valley 42-12. Outside of getting beat by a fantastic Sioux Center team, the Crusaders have been playing some good ball. Now up to 6-1 heading into Week 8. No matter who you're playing, these last couple games become the most important ones. Again, they're going to need some help in order to win their district, but they're well on their way to finishing runner-up and securing an automatic bid. They got a few weaker opponents before the playoffs begin, so Heelan going to look to finish strong and at least finish second in their district. At number 8, the team right ahead of them, the team that gave them their one loss, Sioux Center, beat MOC Floyd Valley 19-12. Sioux Center's defense is going to be a problem for anyone who crosses their path the rest of the way, averaging just 11.7 points per game allowed, which is crazy. Look for Sioux Center to be another one-loss team in the playoffs with 2 more sub-500 teams as they prepare for the postseason. Sioux Center inside track to becoming a district champion. At number 7, Nevada. Could have been the team of the week if it weren't for the number 1 team falling. Nevada, the second biggest win in Class 3A this week, beat Harlan 39-20. 4 tackle for losses, 4 interceptions from the defense, and 204 yards with 3 touchdowns from Case and Stevenson to pull together and get a huge win over the Cyclones. The state's rushing yard leader in Class 3A has a huge day, and they have their biggest test of the entire season coming, taking on one of the best in the class with Creston. That is a district championship between those two teams. Both teams will make the postseason as they both beat Harlan. But this game, like I said, will decide the district champ, and they're fighting for an extra home game in the playoffs. So a really, really big game. Can't underestimate how big hosting games in the postseason is. At number 6, Assumption. They move up a spot after beating Washington 35-0. Only 2-loss team in the top 10, but their 2 losses are coming from a top 5 3A team and a top 10 4A team in Mount Vernon and North Scott. No, not a whole lot to say about this game. Assumption took care of business against a weaker Washington team. Assumption's next opponent's combined record 4-10, so this should be a chance for Assumption to get in a rhythm and get hot in the most important time of the year. Again, Assumption looking to be a district runner-up, but a really good one at that. Let's get into you guys' top 5, where we've got a new number 1. You know, it's probably between 2 teams. Our ranker went with Solon. But before we get to that, let's talk about the other ones. At number 5, Clear Lake, 7-0, beat Hampton Dumont Cal, a good win, 21-6. Lions are finally over the hump and into the top 5 in Class 3A, and rightfully so. Their last 3 wins over ranked 3A teams for a combined score of 60-36. With one final test in the regular season against Humboldt, Clear Lake is looking to pick up an undefeated season, and they are a part of that gauntlet of a district that I've talked about. So if they can win that, they really are proving themselves as a contender in this loaded Class 3A. At number 4, Mount Vernon, they beat Fort Madison 45-7. Joey Romberg holds down a number 2 spot in Class 3A passing yards, and the Mustangs get a blowout win over a very solid Fort Madison team. Our ranker says he believes this team could make a trip back to the Dome this season, but very, very safe to say the competition for the Dome, the state title, is a much bigger challenge this season. Class 3A is wide open at this point, but Mount Vernon well on their way to becoming a district champion and hosting hosting as long as they can in the playoffs. At number 3, Williamsburg. They were the number 1 team. Suffered their first loss of the season, 21-14. I was there. Really scrappy game. Williamsburg kind of was dealing with an injury bug. Weisskopf had to play quarterback a lot. He did what he could, but really the story was about Solon. But Williamsburg, a devastating loss. Still believe that Williamsburg is one of, if not the top favorite to win it all this year. Just, maybe bad night, whatever it was, Solon home game. The ball didn't seem to bounce their way a lot of the night. But although, they're going to probably finish a runner-up in this district now, but that's a really, really good runner-up. And then more than likely Solon will win the district and put Williamsburg in a little tougher spot in the bracket. So it's a really tough loss for Williamsburg, but at the end of the day, there's still plenty of games to go. There's bigger things to fight for, so they're going to look to bounce back and wrap up their runner-up spot in the district. At number 2 is Creston at 7-0. They beat Knoxville 56-14. You could make a case for this team being the number 1 team. Our ranker decided to go another way. Cale Turner and Brendan Hayes keep on being the top quarterback wide receiver duo in Class 3A. Brendan Hayes, at the top, you could argue he's the best running back in Class 3A and the best wide receiver in Class 3A. Very tough, like our ranker says, to leave the Panthers hanging at number 2 with the loss to Williamsburg, but the win by Solon was just too impressive. Creston, again, they got a massive game coming up against Nevada, a win there, and they could really put themselves at the top spot in a win there, and they're going to secure themselves a district title in a pretty tough district with Nevada and Harlan. So the Panthers, they are your number 2 team in Class 3A this week. And number 1, Solon beat Williamsburg 21-14. How about them Spartans? Although the offense didn't look great, a win is a win, and Brett White is just proving to be the man. I was really impressed watching him leading that defense and really shutting down a Williamsburg offense that's just full of playmakers. And really, this is the team to beat with just a few weeks remaining. Their one loss to Assumption, seemingly in week 1, has proven, I wouldn't say to be a fluke, but obviously they've bounced back from that, and they've proven that's in their past, and they're winners of 6 straight. And again, they're the team to beat right now, and they're on a great win streak. And momentum could really bring them to a deep run and then the postseason. And more importantly, they got the inside track to becoming a district champion, which means an extra home game in the postseason, which is massive at the end of the day. But nevertheless, that's all I got for Class 3A. Tons of movement, new number 1 team. Again, this class is proving to be just a mess, but a mess in like the funnest way possible. Just so many teams that you could make a case for winning it all. But nevertheless, stay tuned. We got one more set of rankings coming your way next week before postseason play begins, where we're opening up tons of new content that we're excited to bring you guys. So Class 3A fans, I will catch you guys next week.